That's why we here at Real Talk with Kelsey and Rachel, we want to be your best fight friends. We're not here to criticize, condemn, or complain. We will just share our thoughts and opinions. You can hang out with us if you want to. If you don't, just keep on walking. We don't care.
Is that how we want it?
We don't care. Hey guys, it's your best five friends. I'm Kelsey. This is Rachel. Rachel, let's talk about Joe Rogan. Let's have our own Joe Rogan experience right here, right now.
Joe Rogan.
Next on Fear Factor. He's the Fear Factor guy to me. Remember Fear Factor? That's a long time ago.
I always remember him from the sitcom Just Shoot Me.
Okay,
that was my first thing.
Long
with Joe
career. Rogan. Long and successful career by Joe Rogan. Now he's the most popular podcaster in the world. And he's, the face of UFC commentating, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And he's great at that role. He's great at it. He's great at it because he knows about the sport. He loves the sport.
He loves the sport.
And he gets so excited about the sport. And that's something that if you watch boxing and UFC, we don't have that in boxing. We have a bunch of criticism people like me, sitting there at the ringside talking about boxing. And in UFC, when something happens, people are like, oh!
Well,
they're fans, It's
kind of special, like when I think particularly of Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier.
Yeah,
who
they're great.
Like when something happens, they're just as excited as all of us are. And sometimes in boxing, I feel like it's a trained broadcaster, so they're trained to call the fight and they do a good job at it. And then sometimes you have your color commentators, right, which are usually current or former athletes
or trainers,
and sometimes I feel like they're trying to fit into a role and not just. I feel like it's not a lot of people just being themselves, and I think Joe Rogan does a good job of just being himself. My experience with Daniel Cormier is that he's just himself. You have to balance it a little bit because there is a requirement of your job, but yeah, they do that. We kind of went down a rabbit hole here.
Anyway, all that to say, Joe Rogan's great at what he does. He's very popular for it.
Just celebrated 18 years.
18 years as the color commentator of UFC, and he's actually been with the UFC longer because he started originally doing backstage interviews. So he's been with the UFC since I think it was UFC 12, which is a long, long time ago, which is way before they had way before they had weight classes and or anything like the real sport that you see today. Just an amazing job by him. Now, he's mired in controversies right now, Rachel. Listen, Rachel. He's mired in controversies right now, Rachel. What do you think that's about? I have a theory, but I would like to hear your thought on it.
Well, I think that there's definitely this kind of habitual behavior that I have observed in our culture. Sort of cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
Like, immediately something happens, somebody does something. It doesn't matter when they did it. It just, you see it and you're like, you're done. You're out of here. Like it's just this kind of
It's usually, though, my point is that it's usually not the thing. It's because the person that did the thing you don't like for some other reason. That's what the thing is. Do you see what I'm saying?
I don't think it's that. I think that there is this kind of power attached to being able to cancel somebody. That our culture can kind of get together and whatever, progressive views it has, if somebody crosses that line, they're like, we've silenced you. And I think there's a kind of thrill in getting to just cancel somebody and instead of seeing them as human beings, you know?
To me, it seems like the recent controversies that have popped up, because it's stuff like, here's this video clip from 10 years ago, right? They're looking for stuff from a long time ago. Maybe because, I think, in part because, it's like they can, but also I think it's because he had just said something about what's going on politically, how he thought politically. And I think that you have half of the side in politics looking for people to ditch on, and the other half doing the same thing to the other half. Do you see what I'm saying? So it seems like that, especially, man, this always happens during, right before the big presidential elections in the United States. All of a sudden, everybody's just looking for all this dirt, all this stuff, and it's all about who are you going to vote for in 2020.
Maybe, I don't know.
That's what I think. That's what I see.
I don't know. I will say this. Often, so the controversy around Joe Rogan
is also kind of stupid.
Is about him and a friend on his podcast talking about essentially his friend used this position to attempt to
Not, yeah.
score. You know what I mean? Like,
got sexual favors from women.
People criticize this. It happened in 2011, and my question is do they actually care? Do they care about the well-being of the people that are affected by this? What's the real thing here? Because I feel like it's more of an addiction to like outrage, an addiction to like, I'm gonna like, let's just all jump on this person and attack them because I am morally superior.
Yeah.
So anytime I get a chance to jump on somebody, I get to feel more morally superior, and that feels great. And I can only say that as somebody who has benefited in the short term from feeling morally superior.
Technology like social media and stuff like that brings people close. They tend to use it to gravitate towards people, a group of people that they can hate other people with. Do you know what I mean? Like that I feel like in 100 years from now they're gonna look back at how social media came about and technology like that brings people together, and that we didn't know how to use it or the ramifications or the consequences of having that technology, kind of like we do now with things that happened 100 years ago. All this to say, Joe Rogan also, his show tends to be just him being himself. And
yeah,
I think
and
that,
that's
like,
the thing.
that draws people to him, but also is what's going to trigger people that are looking for reasons to be mad at him.
Right, and so I think that there's always going to be something there, because if I'm honest and I'm just who I am, not everybody's going to like me, because that's absolutely impossible. And I'm also going to make mistakes because I'm a human being.
Always growing.
So I might do something that I'm like, oh, like I wish I would have done that, or I might like just grow and learn and be like, oh, well, that's the person I was then. It's not the person I was now. There's not really any reason for me to feel guilty about that. I'm growing and learning.
Yeah.
And, I make amends where I need to make amends, and then I move on, and so should everybody else.
Yeah, nobody, like, I feel like just what feels like I've done a lot of, like, embarrassing things or things that, like, I don't know, like, I've done a lot of stupid things and I've had a lot of difficulties in my life. But I will say that who I am today is in part because I went through those experiences. So I'm grateful for all those things that I did that maybe were stupid or maybe that were embarrassing or whatever. They made me who I am today. I don't think I could be who I am today without that. I think everybody is like that, and we should all just be more charitable to each other. Especially you guys should be more charitable to us.
By liking, commenting, and subscribing.
Rachel, segue us.